They're racing immediately. But a champion becomes a legend. Makybe Diva wins it again.
Yes, yes, yes. Wins the Everest. Glen Boss wins another big one.
Welcome to episode 2 of season 5 of Who's the Boss? Adam Peacock here, Glen Boss there. Bossy, how are things, mate? How was your week?
Yeah, had a good week. Went down to Melbourne for part of the week, played a bit of golf at the Cathedral Golf Course, which is highly recommended if you can get there. One of the great golf courses I've ever played. And then end up going to the football, watching Brisbane topple my Collingwood. So, but Brisbane, geez, they played. Collingwood played well, but Brisbane played better.
This is a revelation. I didn't realise you're a Collingwood fan. How does a guy from southeast Queensland end up a Collingwood fan and basically barracking against a Queensland team on getting into the grand final, unsuccessfully, I might add?
Well, Adam, when I lived in Melbourne for about 10 odd years, fell in love with AFL and didn't have a team. I just loved watching it. And then I started doing some work with Eddie Maguire and I started playing a bit of golf with Bucks. So all of a sudden I had no choice. So I started following Collingwood, and to a lot of people's started to dislike me for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, they started winning. They're winning, and they seem to be in the top 4 every year, so I like them.
Okay, so Brisbane Broncos going to try and make a grand final this weekend. Brisbane Lions in a grand final. You being a proud Queenslander, putting aside Collingwood, at the end of these couple of weeks, Brisbane end up celebrating 0 grand final wins, 1 grand final win, 2 grand final wins.
Yeah, Brisbane are playing really well. Reece Welsh has just been, he's been cutting loose lately, and he's been he's been changing the game. So I like the way they're playing. They're playing football, unrestricted football, which can win a grand final. But geez, I tell you what, Penrith, this could be the Cinderella story. Coming from way down the ladder, they were nowhere at one point, and they might win their 5th title. But it's so interesting, the football, both codes. We don't know who's going to win.
Oh, so you're not making a decision there on 0, 1 or 2.
Well, I think Brisbane are playing. They got their captain back, so Brisbane are playing like they can win. So I'm going to back Brisbane all the way.
Okay, so 1 there, and Brisbane Lions and Geelong in the other footy grand final.
Yeah, Brisbane in the AFL, they're playing the same sort of brand of football. They're playing like they've got nothing to lose. They're playing so well. Their last 2 quarters against Collingwood was outstanding. So they're playing like they can win another premiership.
Okay, 2 for 2 for Bossy. Expect nothing else from a proud Queenslander. Hey, let's get to some racing news, shall we? And this happens a fair bit around this time of year when the connections of a boom horse who are hoping for great things this preparation go in, and things don't go to plan in the first 1 or 2 sections. And it's happened to the best jockeys around, but poor old Ash Morgan has been booted off Private Harry after 1 run this prep in the lead up to the Everest. Harsh or fair on Ash?
Oh, very harsh. The thing about these horses like him, Private Harry, there's nowhere to hide now. He's going to run in Group 1 races from now onwards. There's nowhere to hide. I thought he was very disappointing first up. Over-raced, not through anyone's fault. Very fresh, obviously. So, and I thought the horse ran really well, to be very honest. He hung on there until the last 100, and then he got swamped by all the good horses. Like I said, I personally don't think... I know he won the Group 1 Galaxy, but I personally don't think he's a Group 1 horse. So, in saying that, I don't think he'll go on and win another Group 1 race. There you go. You heard it from Bossy, and I think he was harshly dealt with, Ash. So, like I said, he's not up to these real good sprinters we've got. He could not win an Everest. He wouldn't even run in the first 6. That's where he sits with me. He was lucky to get away with a Group 1 Galaxy, and let's leave it at that.
Tim Clark goes on, but just one from the human perspective for a jockey. When you get I don't know if it happened too often to you, Bossy, but probably not as much as perhaps other unfortunate riders, but it's happened to Craig Williams recently, for instance, on Giga Kick. What's it like receiving that phone call and you become a bit blindsided by the fact?
Oh, it's never fun, but it's business, right? I mean, I looked at the ownership group of Private Harry, and there's like 1 million owners in it. So I don't know whose decision it actually was, whether it was Nathan Doyle's decision or the collective group of owners. But yeah, it's never a fun phone call that you get. But, it's business. You got to get on with it. When one door shuts, hopefully another 2 or 3 open up.
I love Ash's response to it, by the way, last one on this, that he was asked, how you're coming to terms with it. And he goes, that is life, as you kind of intimated there, that's just the way it goes. But on Everest, I'll either be riding at Caulfield because the McAvoys have a great chance in the Caulfield Cup. You'll be riding there, or be riding at Warhope. So he's open to offers, it seems, Ash.
Yeah, that's the way to take it on the chin, isn't it? Like I said, you can't jump up and down and bitch. The decision's already been made. It can't be reversed. But like I said, if the horse goes out there and gets beat next start or his next 2 starts, they might go back and say we might put him back on. So like I said, you don't burn your bridges.
Before we get to our little segment that we'll do at the top of each and every episode of Who's the Boss this series, a quick mention of our friends at AirTouch, airtouch.net.au. We're recording this in different places today, Bossy, but I've got a feeling that where I'm recording this, they've got the AirTouch set up. They're just adjusting the climate as I'm sitting here nicely as the temperature rises where I'm sitting outside. So AirTouch is your remote air conditioning control, and it's one to have for summer, correct?
Correct. We're heading into summer, and I've been told the Gold Coast is going to have one of those real humid again summers. So it's a must to have AirTouch because, like, I love me golf. Go out there and play, and I get home on sweating bullets. And it's nice to get in the car before I get home, before I start my journey, my half an hour drive back to the home. I get on my phone, dial it in, so it's perfect when I get home.
Good stuff. Thanks again to AirTouch for being a part of Who's the Boss. Now to our regular segment we're going to do up the top. It's called Take the Split. So it's basically along the lines of what you used to do, Bossy, all the time. And I remember you did it on Private Steer and a Doncaster so well, and numerous other big races, is you've got a decision to make and you are not hanging about. You're taking that run when it's available. So this is more about opinion, is taking the opinion when I pose the question to you and not sitting on the fence. You didn't sit on the fence earlier with Private Harry not winning another Group 1, so preempted this one. But the question this week I'm going to pose to you is, okay, in a couple of months' time, who is going to be leading contender for Horse of the Year after we've had all the big races of the spring?
Yeah, this is a real tough one because we've got so many horses that are actually in such great form at the moment. But for mine, Treasure the Moment. I think she is going to take everything in before her. I know she had a little slight setback with the temperature. That's no big deal. The horse, this happens, but at least it happened early in the prep. But I think Treasure the Moment she might go unbeaten through this whole preparation. She's that good.
Yeah, she blew everyone away first up, and unfortunately the prep has had to be reconfigured, so to speak. Does that worry you, though, that there has been an ever so slight reconfiguration to the prep with the grand finals still the same ones at the end of the line? No,
but look at the form behind her. Mr. B's come out and won again. Buckaroo almost won. He's a very good horse. So her first up run, that's going to be the form race that set the spring, the tone for the whole spring, and she blew them away. It's one of those things. It's visually, it was very good. She was great on the clock. So you just don't ignore the obvious. She's a very, very high class athlete, and like I said, she's got a lot of picket fences beside her name, and I think she'll continue on that merry way.
There you go. Take the split this week. Glen Boss reckons Treasure the Moment will be the leading contender. Not saying she'll be Horse of the Year, but leading contender for Horse of the Year when we've done all the big races in the months to come. It's a beautiful time of year, and we'll discuss a bit more after our special guest. We've got Bossy's Best coming up, a great weekend of racing, but we'll get to our special guest right now, Bossy. And we've bounced around the place here on Who's the Boss and talked to so many participants in the industry, but one huge area we haven't touched is when the horses go to market and they become part of ownership groups. And it's an interesting space, isn't it? It's kind of like off Broadway a bit, but everyone's got it in the back of their minds about where these good horses are originally coming from.
And the amount of work and care and detail that goes into this industry is second to none. They go out and find these young fillies and colts. They pinhook them. They want the best ones at their sale, and obviously Inglis Easter is our biggest sale. There's no what can I say? There's a reason why they are the best. the amount of work that goes in behind the scenes. So it's really good to sit down and hear what actually does go involved, what is involved, because to the layman, you just think they just turn up, all these good colts and fillies turn up at their sale and they get sold for these huge prices. No. There's so much involved.
Well, let's get to it right now. Our special guest this week is the CEO of Bloodstock at Inglis, one of the big horse sellers in Australia. It's Sebastian Hutch, who tells some great tales about how it comes to pass, what Bossy was just talking about there, and some of the famous stories of your rags to riches tale and your riches to rags tale. Sebastian Hutch on Who's the Boss. Sebastian, first of all, great to have you on, and also thank you for your nice little setup you got here, little pokey joint out in Warwick Farm in the southwest of Sydney.
It's great to have you both out at Riverside. It's the first time for you, Adam?
Yes, I've been to a sale, and I was happy to say I kept my hands down on instruction from the wife and the kids.
That was my next question, if you bought a horse or not.
Well,
Yes.
I'll be asking you if I could have a spare room here to live in, if that was the case. But Bossy, what a complex.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. Obviously, I used to love Newmarket, but when they had this vision to build out here at Warwick Farm, and when you think the proximity of Warwick Farm is so close to the city now, like it's 25 minutes on a normal run, 30 minutes, 40 minutes on a tough run. It's not that far, but they've just built this state-of-the-art complex out here, and the hotel's 5-star. It's magic.
It's got a lot of character. I mean, it's obviously still a very young complex, and everybody loved Newmarket because of the history of the place. Like, it was a very charming place, the trees, and just the general history of it. This place is developing its own history.
Yep.
You can see with the trees growing down through the complex. It's a pretty impressive place, and there's some great stories that have been had here already. You know, a couple of years ago we sold a Wings filly for $10 million.
Yes.
It was an amazing day. Don't think any of us...
I was here for that day. It was very exciting.
I don't think any of us will ever be part of anything like that again. But those sort of stories, you know, add to the theatre of the place and add to the charm of the place.
Yeah, you're gradually giving this place its own history, because Newmarket, for the uninitiated, it was a place in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. It was squashed in the middle of suburbia, but it just came alive at Easter time and the horse sales, and this place has that same mystique about it already around sales. So just in a general sense, so Inglis, huge name associated with horse racing throughout its history here in Australia, basically. What is exactly the go now? It's 3 or 4 main sales through the year, and then plenty of online stuff as well.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the business was established in 1867, and it's been in the Inglis family ever since then. Like, it's an old business, a well-established family business. You know, we still see a member of the Inglis family, whether it's Arthur or Jamie, regularly in the office. So that's, you know, I think it's fantastic for everybody to have that association. And it's a name that's recognised right around the world. You know, in bloodstock circles, people know Inglis right around the world. We are primarily a bloodstock business, but there are other facets to the business as well. Inglis has investments in, like, we have a rural property business, an insurance business, a technology business, but the main focus is the trade of bloodstock. Yeah. And as you mentioned, you know, a focal point of the year is the Easter yearling sale. It's the most prestigious yearling sale in the Southern Hemisphere, but we have yearling sales in Sydney in February, classic sale, the premier sale in Melbourne in March, and then broodmare and weanling sales in May, and then a 2-year-old sale in October, which is, as it turns out, our next sale.
And you've
kindly
brought along the book through the catalogue here, Bossy.
Yeah.
He's going to try and tempt us into like a Who's the Boss runner or something like that. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, I remember like going back, even like as far as I can remember, people, the big syndicates would get together and they would go there specifically to buy a colt. You know, they were always, because the colts, all the good colts come out of the sale. So it was such a big focus and a lot of money from overseas trying to come over here and buy that right colt. And it was just year after year, they just kept churning them out.
Yeah, well, at Easter, that's what the focal point of the whole thing is. You know, people want to try and buy it's a sale where the best yearlings in Australasia are offered for sale, so it obviously attracts people who are looking to try and acquire that profile of stock. I mean, ironically, some of the best stories out of Easter are horses that were less expensive.
Yes.
Like Overpass is confirmed for an Everest. He's a $75,000 yearling out of Easter, and he's won $10.5 million in prize money. He's not necessarily what people. He's not like that profile of horse isn't necessarily synonymous with Easter.
Yeah.
But like, it's a good illustration of the fact that you can go to a sale like that and buy a horse for not a lot of money and race it. But it's effectively a champion. But really the horses that drive the interest in that sale are horses like Switzerland and Home Affairs, right? I mean, you go to Easter and buy a $1.5 million Schnitzel colt, And that turns out to be Switzerland, one of the most valuable thoroughbreds in the country. Same thing with Home Affairs. I mean, Home Affairs was actually sold in the year where we didn't have a sale. We sat on we didn't have a live sale. We sat on tables in the auditorium, and there were no horses here because it was in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we took phone bids and internet bids, and the two auctioneers alternated for 2 days non-stop.
Wow.
It was the most extraordinary. There were 6 of us sitting at tables in the auditorium. Anyway, he made 875 grand in the auction, so the closest thing that I got to see him was seeing him parading on a video in the auditorium. And then, 18 months or 2 years later, he wins a Coolmore at Flemington. Just amazing stuff. I mean, and now everybody's waiting to see how his first 2-year-olds go. It's cool stuff.
Yeah, it's very
you
cool.
know what it's like with Fastnet Rock. I mean, it was just, he was an Easter horse. Like, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have Bella Nipotina, who was sold, what, 70,000, I believe?
80 grand.
80 grand, like, you know, and she's second highest earner in Australian history. So it's here for everybody.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If you look at the top ones and say, okay, that's out of my league, you don't have to necessarily be in that league. You can actually fish around and find, and you can find a bloody very good horse out of this sale.
And Australia does that better than anywhere else.
Yep.
Yeah.
But just because the way racing is promoted, the accessibility of ownership, you know, the nature of the engagement with the average participant, you know, like it's a fantastic product in this part of the world, and thus there are just so many more stories of people being involved in, I don't know whether it's rags to riches stories or etc., just stories that really engage people.
Yep.
And I think that's why racing is so popular here.
We'll get some of your best in a moment, but Bossy, when I walked into the Inglis Hotel here, and a shout out for the Inglis Hotel at Warwick Farm for hosting us for a couple of episodes at least, hopefully a few more of this season of Who's the Boss. There's a massive wall over there, and we'll hopefully get a shot with it to roll it in. And there's names of the Group 1 winners that have been sold through the Inglis yards over time. And Bossy was over there before going, yep, remember that one, yep, I remember that one. And it speaks of, it's a massive industry, but it's all connected somehow. And some people might think, how's a jockey connected to what goes through a sales yard? But it's the start of it towards going past the winning path first.
I mean, I first when you walk upstairs and you see the history that they brought from Newmarket here, so you're looking around at all that stuff, and then I just noticed the board, and I've ridden 14 Group 1, individual Group 1 winners on that board, and probably 25 collectively. And I've ridden horses that have gone on, like Switzerland and Home Affairs, that have gone on to be good horses just recently. So it's a pretty cool board. And when you look back, you reminisce about the history of the whole place.
What you'd appreciate, and something that maybe people don't think about, is, I mean, there are a lot of great horses on those boards, right? But it's the volume of people involved in making that happen.
Yes.
You know, you've spent time at farms and seen the effort that goes into breeding these horses. We see it every year. The effort, the painstaking effort that people put in developing young horses, and then you take the next step to where the horses are prepared for training, then they go into training. I mean, you think of the number of people involved on race day, like the important role a strapper plays in making sure a horse can show its best on race day, and all the little nuances. I mean, you compare it to any other sport, right? But in this instance, you're dealing with livestock, which is just so much, such a more difficult thing to navigate. I mean, it's an amazing thing. So, like, those horses mean an awful lot to a lot of people, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I've said it before in the past, I think I said it to Adam. I said, I think it's very important as young men and women jockeys to actually go and spend some time on a stud farm and actually see the care from the time these things hit the ground when they're born, the amount of care that goes into them to get them to a stage where they're willing to be sold. It's unbelievable. So, you know, if they have a real appreciation for what actually goes in behind the scenes, I think it's imperative that they should go and do that.
What's your history like at the sales, Bossy? Have you ever come along and put your hand up?
No, I haven't. Yet. Might have to sell one of these things. But I've always been a very interested participant going to the sales all the time, because I rode so many great colts in Australian history. I've ridden some of the best, you know, from Schnitzel, Fastnet Rock, I can go on and on. So I've always been interested to go and look at their progeny and see what they go for and see where they go, and then watch them as they develop. Yeah,
and obviously there's two big brands in Australian bloodstock selling. I don't know if this is going to get me kicked out if I mention the other mob, Magic Millions, but there's them. And there's Inglis. But this setup, just back to this setup briefly before we get into the rags to riches and the riches to rags stories when it's selling racehorses. Like, this is amazing, because like literally where we sit here, 50 metres away is the sale ring.
Yep.
In between us, private suites where like buyers can sit during sales and be noticed if they just want a bit of privacy upstairs, or they can sit on the main floor. And behind that are all the stables. And over there, behind me, is Warwick Farm Racecourse. So it's all this well-designed, well-put-together, well-thought-out complex, which I'm sure everyone who comes here really appreciates, namely the fact that over there is a bar too.
Yeah. We encourage people to come. It's obviously the sales are free for people to attend and spectate, and it's like certain sales are tremendous, like particularly good theatre, like the Easter Yearling sale, the Chairman sale. They're fantastic spectacles because you're seeing some of the most significant names in Australian bloodstock competing for what are supposed to be the champions of the future.
It's drama.
Yeah, it's drama.
It's dramatic.
But what's great about it is all those people are accessible. Like you can go and you can come to a sale and you can go up and talk to Gay Waterhouse. You can go and talk to Chris Waller. You can talk to Kieran Marr. These people recognise, are very conscious of their responsibility to promote the sport, and the sales are one of the places where it's most easy to engage with those people. So we encourage people to come out and experience it, live it a little, really get a feel for it. And it's hard not to admire the horsemanship that's on show as well.
So am I right in saying you're basically putting on an AFL, NFL, NBA draft?
Yeah, it's the equivalent. It's basically the equivalent of the people who work the sales, bloodstock agents, syndicators, the trainers, the owners, effectively they're talent spotting.
Yes.
And people's criteria for what they're, people are trying to buy different types of horses. Some people want to buy a 2-year-old. Some people want to buy a horse that can win a classic race. Somebody want to buy a filly that might race, they can breed from later on. Different people have different criteria. And the beauty of it is that we'll go to we'll catalogue 800 yearlings at a classic sale. Yeah. And we'll offer, say 720 of those. You might scratch 10% of them for one reason or another. We'll have 85, 90% of those sell. But you could go around the complex and find people who only like 10 horses in the sale, yet 90% of them sell. It's an amazing thing. We talk about beauty being in the eye of the beholder. That's never more in evidence than at a yearling sale, because there are people who buy yearlings that another person would never buy, and vice versa. And by the time it gets to Saturday afternoon, when at the starting stalls in Sydney, Melbourne, or right across the country, everybody's equal, and then that's the ultimate test of whether what you bought is going to be a good horse or not.
That's why they need good riders.
Well, it's just opinions. Every bloodstock agent will have an opinion, the way they walk, the way they do things, and that's the beauty of it all. There's no right or wrong answer to the whole thing, but they're all striving for that perfection, which you'll never find.
No.
But everyone's looking for that perfect racehorse, that perfect athlete, and it's just this endless search of trying to find one, and it's just a melting pot of opinions at the end of the day.
Yeah, and people will go through seams of being in really good form. There'll be people who go on runs of buying good horses to just think, wow, and then they'll go on a period where they just can't hit a bullseye. And I'm sure it's no different to any form of life where you're just getting a good frame of mind and you're seeing things very clearly with real clarity, thinking through things with real clarity, and just making good decisions.
I love quirks. What's a quirky one in terms of what a buyer is kind of likes to look at a horse and go, oh yeah, it's I don't know, right kneecap points at 65 degrees that way, or something like that. Is there?
Oh, you see a lot of unusual behaviour at a sale. Like a lot of unusual behaviour. We have a particularly big buyer from Queensland who likes to see. Has someone who assists them at the sales to examine a particular physical trait of every yearling in the sale. Yeah, every single one.
The whole book.
Got to go around the complex for the sales that he attends. You got to go around the complex and examine one particular physical characteristic.
You're not going to give it up here, are you?
I'm not giving it up because the guy probably doesn't race as many good horses as he should. So I'm not sure if he's.
Exhausting.
I'm not sure if it's worked out quite as well as it might, but who knows? I mean, that's those kind of things can change, but you see all sorts of funny behaviour. And there's a particularly prominent syndicator who's been very successful buying a lot of good horses, will only bid to a particular bid spotter from a particular spot. This person will know 3, 4, 5 lots in advance. They'll say, where is so and so? He's in the bathroom.
Oh no!
What do you mean? He needs to be here on this lot. I said, like, he's on his break or where? I know he needs to be here. Only bid that bid spotter. And when you ask him why, like, have you associated with some sort of particularly good horse you bought? No.
So he'll let one. He might have pinhooked one, but he'll let it go if that's not going to be the right scenario for him.
Right? You just that person will find. I can tell you where the spot that person stands. It's around the corner on the right side, and they'll poke their head out to bid, have a bid, poke their head back in. Like, sorry, but like it's funny stuff to see, and there are loads of examples of that. Like loads of examples of that.
Bossy can speak to this though about like when you sit on one, especially a young 2-year-old, and you can tell soon enough. You've told some great stories on this podcast about the ones that you've sat on and gone, whoa. Like that, the time that you got on Black Caviar, and you didn't realise it was Black Caviar, and then you got off and went, can I stay on this thing? But, Lukey Nolan had already called dibs, but like when you sit on one, what feedback could you give to like buyers when they buy them untried about what actually you might be looking for?
For me,
the great guessing game.
Yeah, for sure. I was just always looking for the athlete, you know. Like when you get to these certain good horses, like I said, most of them can run very fast, you know. But some of them have cheap speed. But I was more interested in what they did after their gallop, how they handle themselves, how their heart rate dropped, how their breathing come back down, you know, so they've got aerobic capacity, how they covered the ground. All those little things I was always taking in, you know, when I rode them. And when you find the right one, you know, it has all those little attributes. You go, well, I think we've got one here, you know what I mean? And then they've got to have that will to win. They've got to want to be racehorses at the end of the day, and that's something that you can't teach. Some of them have. I've ridden some amazing, moving, strapping-looking colts or fillies, and, you know, they come up and they just run any time with any other horse, but race day they just haven't got it in them. They just don't have the ability to want to be a winner. So, you know, you still got to find that little 10% at the end of it.
So many of the, like, people talk about human athletes that are good, who are successful, and what different reasons. You know, you look at the start line of the 100 metres of the Olympics, and there's a tall guy, a short guy. You know, there's no rule, but attitude is a massive part of it. You know,
attitude. You know,
and a variety of different things. So a lot of the qualities are very comparable to human characteristics. You're just trying to find them in a horse rather than a human. It makes it very interesting to spend a lot of time around horses, because you start trying to see things. You think, is this more consistent with good horses? Is that more consistent with good horses? And you'd have seen it firsthand as a jockey. You know, you have just the horses that, you know, they eat well, they want to train, they want to make an effort, they're not intimidated by being in and around other horses. I mean, in Australia, racing a lot of flat tracks, in other parts of the world, in Britain especially, they ride on tracks that are very variable. So you can have a horse that's fantastic on a flat track, but just doesn't have the ability to handle the contours of a different sort of track. You know, it's interesting if you really get into it.
It's funny, when you asked that question before, I was just thinking back, you know, people look for certain traits. Particularly with colts, I would go there and I'd say there's a lot of them pinhook this certain colt. I'd go there after it's been pulled out 20 times, and I'd watch its mannerisms. And if it just walked out and go, okay, we're just going to do this one more time, you know, he wasn't pissed off about the situation, you go, he's a soldier. He's the one he will keep turning up. He'll do his job. There's some of them, after 10 times, they just don't want to get out there, and they're playing up and they're just pissed off with the whole situation, and, you know, people pushing them and pulling them, and, you know, then you go, oh, that's the one that's a bit cantankerous.
It's like me when I get told to go and pick up the kids.
You're looking for the soldier. You're looking for the one that's going to. He's not going to ask questions. He's just going to go and do his job, and that's the trait that I will look for.
You asked about characteristics and funny things that people do. We have another bloodstock agent, very successful bloodstock agent, who will go down to particular drafts and ask to look at every horse bar the horse that they like. But they won't be looking at the horses they ask to see at all. They'll be looking at the horse that they like, but they don't want to give their game away by saying, I want to see this one. So they'll be looking at that. They'll have a particular horse in front of them, but really their eye will be cast towards a different horse, because they want to see over a consistent, extended period of time how that particular horse behaves, because they think there's value to it, and it ties back into what you've said.
Talk about being consistent. Geez, are you thirsty?
Very. I've heard.
Are you calling it now? I was going to save it for the end.
I'll tell you what, all this talking has made me thirsty.
Okay, you do it a halfway point.
Here we go. Have you done this before, Sebastian?
I've done plenty of that. We've done plenty.
No, this.
But out of that.
No, never out of that.
Oh, well, you go.
Never out of that.
Get ready for this, mate.
Yeah, we're going to see something special.
So this is our tradition.
Yeah, right.
Who's the boss? And this is episode 2 of season 5. We've got this far, and we're celebrating the fact. So we pop the cork, and it's like, take your pick: 03, 04, 05. Yep. Makybe.
Never tasted champagne.
Because this leads into an interesting story I want to get to about Makybe Diva and how often this has happened. Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. Look at this.
There you go, mate.
Thanks for that.
Mate.
Appreciate it.
04.
Can you cheers with one of these?
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Bossy.
Timber.
Good to be.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. I had to get. Cheers. I've drunk that much stuff out of them. alcohol, beer and champagne and cheersed all the time. I ended up smashing them to pieces, so I digged it up. Oops. I had them all smashed up, so I had to go and get them all refurbed, Sebastian, but they're like brand new now.
They look fantastic.
Anyway, cheers to you guys.
Yep.
He's got the Botox in him, and gone and seen Dr. Nip and Tuck, and we've refurbished beautifully. I'll just put that one there. Which leads us into a story about Makybe Diva, and this is where we're going to dive into, the rags to riches, riches to rags. So Makybe Diva, you know the story, Bossy, and you probably know it as well, Sebastian, is the fact that she was born in England to mum, obviously, but Tony Santich owned, took her to a sale over there, got passed in. I don't know how short of it. It got passed in at the bid was around 40,000 Australian dollars, so I don't know where they wanted to go with the bid. You might know.
It was well short, yeah.
It was well short. So I'm thinking, if those hands keep going up in that sale ring that day, we're not sitting here drinking out
Never
of those.
happens.
No,
it
never happens. But it's funny, like, you'll see some people at the sales and they'll have a limit, but they'll get emotionally involved all of a sudden and they'll go beyond their limits because they just want that horse.
Yeah.
And there's someone else, there's 2 or 3 others bidding against them, but they get emotionally involved and they go, no, I want this horse. So, this is where things can get out of control sometimes. Not out of control for you guys, but,
You want it to get out of control.
No, that's what you do, but
we talk a lot about the emotion of an auction,
Yeah.
And just the theatre of it all and how people, just really get engaged with it, and that makes it great fun. I mean, like it makes it, you see extraordinary things happen.
Like Debbie with the Winx.
well, there's an American bidder. He was on the phone, right?
Yeah. And
And
she
then-
just
Is that
couldn't
right? Was he on
bring
the
herself
phone?
to let it go.
We had a guy, one of the leading trainers in Japan, flew down on a Monday afternoon, stayed in Sydney, I think, on a Monday night, got driven to Hunter Valley on a Tuesday morning, inspected the Winx yearling, drove back to Sydney and flew back to Japan on the Tuesday afternoon. This was in February when they found out she was going to be in the sale. Same guy came back for the sale, so she sold on a Monday just after lunch. She arrived in Sydney, I think, on Sunday night. Stayed in a hotel Sunday, came out to the sale Monday, another quick look at the filly. So, I'm going to buy this. I've got more than enough money to buy this. Never even got to have a bid in. Didn't get a bid in.
Wow.
He had a big budget for the horse and just didn't get a bid in because it just went so quickly.
Got some frequent flyer points at least.
Yeah.
It wasn't a fruitless trip.
But that's interesting to watch her journey now. Everyone will be so interested to watch her journey, and I believe there's a colt coming up soon, so that'll be
Signed up for that one.
Yeah, make for more interesting theatre. More interesting.
Well, it will, because it just puts the spotlight firmly on where it should be at Inglis and Easter time.
Well, it's one of the most appealing things about sales in this country. In other parts of the world, the best stock doesn't typically get offered for sale. Whether it's the US or Europe or Japan, that stuff is very tightly held. Whereas in Australia, the very, very vast majority of, I would say 90% of
Goes through the
commercially bred yearlings are offered for sale. And so people get an opportunity to buy them or invest in them, partner up on them, just something that's not, again, something we take for granted here and not something that's standard practice in other parts of the world.
So, along the lines of that Makybe Diva story about not getting sold, there are many that you've seen through this place didn't get to where the vendor wanted it to get to, so gets passed in, then ends up on another kind of tangent, gets to the racetrack and ends up going bang.
There are loads of them. I mean, there are some fantastic stories. I mean, Nature Strip is the best one probably. He went to a premier sale, an English premier sale in Melbourne, passed in. His reserve was 120 grand. The bidding got to 110. Nobody to bid 120. So the whole complex could have bought that horse at 120 grand. Somebody bids 120 grand, you own him. And I can't remember how many Group 1s he won, but he won a lot of Group 1s. He won a Royal Ascot. He won a heck of a lot of prize money. And he, I don't know how many trainers he had in the end. I think he might have had 4 or 5 trainers in the end.
I think he had 3 or 4, yeah.
So he was an amazing horse. But more recently, I mean, Vinrock is a very good horse at the moment. For Matt Lowry in Yulong, he went through a premier sale again in Melbourne. I think the reserve was 300 grand.
So Yulong were going to sell him?
Rosemont were selling him.
Okay, different.
And horse passed in. There was no bid at the reserve. Matt Lowry said, I thought the horse would make way more money. He went down, negotiated a deal to buy the horse. I think he bought the horse for the reserve at 300 grand. And now, he's a group owning 2-year-old. He sells the horse for, I think he owned 25% of the horse himself. The horse
Such a great story.
15, 20, 25 million to Yulong. It's I mean,
and he come out and won on the weekend.
And won like a good horse.
Oh, I did, yeah.
I mean, you stick your neck out, you take risks, and
Does that happen often when it gets passed in that they go and do a deal back there to say,
Yep.
oh, actually,
Yeah.
I'll
Yep.
meet your reserve because I wasn't sure at the time, or I was shy in public? I don't know.
We're working at an auction house. I mean, the same as selling real estate or selling anything, right? It's an exercise in expectation management. You're trying to condition your vendor to, to be susceptible to whatever the market forces will be on any given day, and you're trying to condition your buyers to be at the necessary level to meet the expectations of the vendor. And it's the same with a horse auction. It's just you go through a lot of them in a day, so you're trying to juggle expectations. And there'll be people, a lot of very, very competent breeders in Australia, and there'll be people who have real conviction in their product. And you say, unless I get a certain level for my horse, I'm not selling. You either bid the number or I'm not selling, I'll race it. And that was the case with Nature Strip.
What about a big part of your sales now? Obviously, COVID was brought that on, but online, it's become a huge part of your business now.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's the biggest window we have into new business.
Yep.
I mean, it didn't exist. The first English digital online auction was in May 2017. It was a catastrophe. I said that very badly, but it was a catastrophe.
Slow internet, no NBN?
Well, not that, but like people weren't used to it. I mean, they had 200 lots in the sale. The clearance rate was 28% or something.
Really?
It was a disaster. And
people just didn't understand it.
Well, like,
is that
people
fair?
just,
They want to feel, they want to look and touch, don't they?
People didn't get it. Probably there were lots of people who weren't even aware. I wasn't here then, but like people wouldn't have been aware of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy who ran that first sale still runs English Digital now, Nick Melmoth, and he's a great guy.
So he kept his job.
Yeah, he kept his job.
That's good for Nick.
I think he was quite happy. I think he was quite happy with how it went. I think he's the sort of guy that would have convinced himself that no horse was going to sell this. He just would have been.
He did well.
He would have been expecting to wake up and go to bed that night with a 0 clearance rate. But it's grown and grown, and like you see someone elderly like Glen, right, who probably doesn't know how to work a computer, or like you're what age, 70?
Yep, I'm 70.
Yeah.
Yep, but they've been great years.
Yeah, been great years. But like we have a very broad cross section of people who are involved in the industry here, and we'll have bidders in any digital sale. We run them basically twice a month from like primarily Australia, but they'll be from certain parts of Southeast Asia, South Africa, New Zealand, Europe, the US, like just on it if you have the right stock. It's fascinating. So to sit in our office on a Wednesday afternoon or a Wednesday morning when those sales are on, because we see the back end of who's bidding. You can't, as a layperson, you can't see who's bidding, but we see the back end of who's bidding. And we say, well, if people could see this, they would just be overwhelmed by the volume of activity. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty cool thing.
It's
and
cool.
You're not only selling racehorses there. There's a recent story of, a horse now at stud, Ole Kirk, got offered up, but there's shares in these syndicated stallions. So they've decided, the owners, to put a share of it. Can you take the story away? Because it's an interesting insight into kind of the variables inside the bloodstock selling industry.
So there was a share in that stallion. He's a very exciting young stallion. The share in that stallion sold in May at public auction for 460 grand, which valued him. Each share is a 1% equity ownership in the horse. Valued the horse at 46 million, which at the time everyone said, this is bonkers. There's no way that horse is worth 46 million. That's mad.
That's what you talk of with a slipper winner, and he was a
He
decent horse.
He was a really good horse and very well bred, but he made a really good start. He did things that nobody was expecting. And so it got to September, and I remember where I was when I was in the phone call. I was going into a hotel room in Melbourne, and someone involved in the ownership of the horse rang me and said, look, one of the partners wants to sell a share. They're in a position where they just like to sell a share because they just want some income for one reason or another. If we can get 460 grand for this share, we'll sell, right? So we'll put that reserve on. I said, okay. I mean, I think that's achievable. I was hopeful rather than confident.
You said it so slowly there that you didn't think you were going to get that.
We're 3 months on from the previous sale. The stallion's going nicely, but like, is there really appetite to go and bid that for the share? So, really prominent racing identity in Melbourne rang me. The sale was on a Wednesday and rang me on Tuesday night at 7:00. And he said, what's this thing going to make? I said, look, I think it'll make 460 grand or maybe a bid or two beyond. So maybe 470, 480. And you're sure that, I said, look, that's just the feel I get for it. There's plenty of inquiry, but everybody says the same thing. I can't make much more than what it made in May, if it makes that at all. sitting watching it on Wednesday at whatever time, I can't remember what time it went through. Anyway, the final sale price was 600 grand, right, which valued the horse at 60 million. You know, there were 3 people who bid 500 grand or more. Like, you just can't fathom the nuances of this whole thing. And
where is Ole Kirk? Up in the Hunter Valley?
He's
just hanging out in his paddock, and all of a sudden, in 6 months, he's become $14 million more valuable.
It's an amazing thing. So like you see, but like you talk about the digital platform. We sell shares in racehorses. We sell broodmares, weanlings, yearlings.
Yeah.
So like Barrakiel,
Yep.
won the Moyer 2 weeks ago, or recently. Over the past 18 months, we've sold shares in him on 3 different occasions.
Oh, wow.
So like that happens a lot. So that's a great story. I think people bought into him at 6 grand, 11 grand, and 14 grand. I think it was like 2.5% share, 5% share, and a 5% share. Like, and those people are all involved now in a Group 1 winner. He's a cool horse. He might end up in the Everest. We had a great story a few years ago where a 5% share in Private Eye went through the digital sale platform, and it made a lot. I can't remember what it made, but it made a lot of money. Like, it made a lot of money. It valued the horse
for a gelding.
Yeah, it made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the guy who bought it was a first-time owner from Melbourne, and the horse ran the Gill guy first up since the share sale. He was the only owner who went to the races that day. So it won.
Yep.
Picked up the trophy. The horse then ran on our slot in the Everest, ran second in the Everest. Like, he won the winner stakes. I think,
Yeah, that's
just
right.
After
Yep.
that, it was the guy. I mean, he comes to sales now all the time. A really nice guy, and he hasn't had a horse anywhere near as good as Private Eye since. But like, he's just had so much fun, and that's what can happen.
We mentioned a couple of rags to riches stories before, Bella Nipotina being one of them. What about a riches to, I won't say rags, but certainly not the expectation met, if you know what I mean, when it's gone for 7 figures. And
that happens so much, where people gone, and like you can have all the necessary physical attributes, all the pedigree criteria, and then you find out on, whether it's in track work or particularly on race day, if you haven't got the heart for it,
you're dealing with
it's not going to happen.
You're dealing with a live animal at the end of the day,
And you'd be able to identify athletes, human athletes who, I don't want to name any names, right? But human athletes who you see have there's certain tennis players, for example, right?
Yeah.
All the ability in the world, right? But just don't have.
Yeah, when a second serve has to be landed in a big moment.
Whatever that little bit of mental fortitude or physical fortitude you need, just doesn't happen. And it's the same with horses. So it's not to say that they find the wrong horse. That horse could have everything they're looking for, but when it comes to game day, it's just not there.
Is there a nice way, Bossy, then to come back on the back of something that you've given a go a few times and tell the expectant owners, guys and girls, unfortunately, I think you've bought a Dubbo Class 1 horse here.
With
all due respect to Dubbo Class 1 horses,
that's true, but
it's still a win.
You try to be respectful, but you try to let them down easy because they're so invested.
Yeah.
You can always tell them their wife's no good, but don't ever tell them their horse is no good. But I used to be pretty honest, trying to be honest with them, and say I don't think you've got you don't put more money into a good money into a bad horse because he's not going to be good enough.
Yeah. So the process now. Say we're sitting here, and you've got the ready to run sale just around the corner. But with an eye on Easter, when do you start going up and looking at the babies?
We've looked at them all.
Yeah.
You looked at them all already?
We've looked at them all. There'll be still a handful of horses still to see, but we've looked at all of them. We start looking, it's getting earlier and earlier every year because the competition for those horses is, Australia is very fortunate to have 2 very competent auction houses.
Yeah.
And the competition between the 2 of them is fairly ferocious. And so we might have a look through, like there are certain horses that we'll sell next April that I've seen last January, last February, last March. But like the key period is the end of July all the way through August and then to the first 2-3 weeks of September.
Why is that? Because of the physical attributes of developing?
We'll call for people to enter their horses around like from the 1st of August onwards. And this is the definitive inspection to try and identify what goes in what sale, who are the horses that are at the point you think can really shift the market, and you try and chase those as hard as you can. And it's good fun. We were expecting a really difficult year in 2025. Everyone was expecting a difficult year, but it worked out really well. So all our team are up and about. They're confident. They've got the bit between their teeth. So we've had a fun spring going around looking at horses, and hopefully we finalise the first catalogue. We finalise is the classic sale catalogue, and we finalise that the first week in November. But all the work is done for that now. It's just a case of piecing it together from here, and then we'll finalise the Easter catalogue usually the third week of January, and start looking forward to the sale from there.
Wow, it's a massive job in it. Like you just don't understand the logistics involved in getting.
We should bring you on inspection.
Yeah, I used to go up there with Peter Moody and Mickey Price, and that we'd go and look at 500 babies. You can't in your sheep. You're looking at babies. In your sleep, you're just sitting there looking at babies. But I used to love it. You bring.
They're a good company as well.
Yeah, they're great. But I just used to love being around watching the babies and thinking, what's that going to look like in 6 months' time? That's the mindset I was. And you'd compare notes at the end of the day to see how close you were or how far you were away. It was good fun.
Those really experienced guys are interesting to do it with, because you'll look at a horse standing in front of you and say, oh, it looks a bit small or it looks a bit big or this or that. And those people have been around a long time and say, oh, don't worry, that looks just like what its mother looked like at the same age, or its brother looked like at the same age, because they have this extraordinary memory bank of information. And say, don't worry about it not being big. Its mother wasn't big, its grandmother wasn't big, and they all ran. And you'd see that.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, speaking of 6 months' time, it's around 6 months' time that the Easter yearling sale will happen here on this patch of turf. And I dare say, lastly, this particular area of the complex, the bar, I'm not sure it closes at 11 o'clock at night. I
2 o'clock
on the nights of the sales. You want people to enjoy the success, wallow in the defeat of missing out on a horse, and go again the next day.
Yeah, well, you want to make sure people turn up, right? There's always a risk.
That helps.
There's always a risk that people don't know. I mean, Easter's great, but where I don't experience it up here much at Easter time. It's stressful, right? I'm stuck to my desk. But at Chairman's sale, the night we sell all the mares and the race fillies, we come up here after that sale. Like this year, I remember feeling the floor move. Why is the floor moving? And
tequila will do that.
Some really incredible stories. Some really incredible stories, because we have a sale the following day, and every year we push the start time back an hour later, because every year someone says, why do you start this thing at 10 o'clock? And then why do you start this thing at 11 o'clock? It just gets later and later and later. But it is good fun, and there's such a social element to the industry as a whole. It's a very social thing. There's no exclusion as to who can participate and who can engage with it. You don't have any particular physical characteristics or anything like that. You just, if you like it, go to the race on Saturday, meet people, come to the sales, meet people. It's good fun.
Yeah, if you're just a member of public, it's a melting pot for everybody. Yeah. If you want to particularly circle out, pinpoint someone you want to go and talk to, if you come to a sale like the East Side, you'll find that person and be able to have a chat. Yeah. There's no boundaries.
And those people will chat to you. Like the opinions in the sport are just so broad, so diverse. It's good fun.
Sebastian, first of all, thanks so much for hosting us here on Who's the Boss, and taking time out of your busy schedule at the moment to come and chat to us and scratch the surface on some of the insights in the industry. Really appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to come out. It's good. It's an honour. We've got a drink out of that. It's great.
Yeah, good on you, Sebastian.
Yeah,
thanks, mate.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Here's
mate.
to Easter.
Cheers.
And the Easter Bunny. So, Bossy, I don't know about you, but I don't have a spare couple of million to go to the Easter yearling sales next year and just throw one at a colt. But if I did, I'd be worried about some of those riches to rags stories in the back of my head. It has probably pulled me up. It's some incredible tales from the sale yard.
Oh, yeah. And just imagine the turnover. Like, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars turned over at those sales. And like we spoke about, there are stories of riches to rags and rags to riches, but there's no exact science about the whole thing. That's what I got out of that whole thing.
That's the fascinating part of it. There's an exact science if you want to go along and see a great event and be treated in style, in comfort by the crew at IPE Events. It's ipevents.com.au. This is them, Bossy, of course. They've got a huge 4 days planned at the Flemington Carnival. You've got big events next year like State of Origin and a few others to be announced shortly. But good way to spend, in particular, the 4 days at Flemington.
Yep, and don't forget they have a massive day, Everest Day. We're in a great spot, Everest Day, right near the winning post. But the 4 days over the spring at Flemington, that's the real big one. It's one that you shouldn't miss. So if you haven't got tickets, ipeevents.com, get on and get some tickets.
Yep, IP events, great place to probably witness K-Ing Rising come past you on Everest Day, and then the rest of the field about half a second later come past you. He's in town. Do you see him? He's landed at Canterbury quarantine, the Hong Kong King.
Yeah, I'm glad he's landed now because I was talking to Huey Bowman. There's a massive cyclone about to hit Hong Kong at the moment. It might be one for the ages. They're buckling down at the moment. So I'm glad K-Ing Rising is here at the moment, and he looks in great form. So, wow, it's going to be interesting Everest this year.
Yeah, lining up nicely. We talked about Private Harry before, but there's a couple of ones that are lining up for the Everest. One in particular that's going around in some of the featured races this weekend. Let's get to some of them now. Bossy's Best. Bossy's Best, we're going to start on Friday night, AFL Grand Final weekend. So all the big races at the Valley, Moonee Valley on Friday night. Featured race, the Group 1 Manikato Stakes for the sprinters. Bossy, pronounced favourite here, heading for the Everest. Lady Shenandoah, you going this way or you got something to beat it?
Oh, no, I have to go with her. I was so glad when the barrier draws come out, she drew barrier 10. That gives J-Mac plenty of options. He's probably going to sit midfield, 3 wide with cover. Even with his 3 wide, no cover. She's a superstar. She will win the Manikato. I thought a real interesting one, Rothfire with Nash Ruler on. I think he will run an absolute bold race. He was a bit of a train wreck first up. We know he's an old warrior. We know what he's capable of, but I doubt whether he'll even match motors with Lady Shenandoah. She's an absolute star.
So 3 wide, cover, no cover at the Valley over the sprint distance. No problems?
Not for her. She's a proper star, and I will go as far as to say I'm pretty confident she can win this year's Everest. It's a proper horse, and you'll see a proper horse running on Friday night.
Okay, well, we'll talk more about that in the lead up to the Everest with K-Ing Rising, of course, we've just mentioned in the country, and a few other great contenders for the Everest, which is looking like a race for the ages. Just before the Manikato Stakes on Friday night, we've got the Fian Stakes on Friday night as well, Bossy, and you've already mentioned on Who's the Boss, Treasure the Moment. You think it's a star in the making, gets the job done here?
Yeah, she should do. Don't worry about what happened to her slight temperature. They got it early. She missed no work. It was just a precaution not to run her. She lines up over a mile in the Fian Stakes. I think she'll win. I think Tom Kitten, I know I've been banging on about him, but I think he'll run an absolutely blinding race second up because he's got great stats second up. So I'm predicting she wins, but I'm tipping Tom Kitten to run a really good race, and he will go towards a Cox Plate and put himself right back in the market.
Small but select field. We'll go to Rose Hill on Saturday, and the Golden Rose, it's always a great race, and a high-quality bunch of 3-year-olds in this one, Bossy. There's not much rubbish in this race. They've all got some kind of claim to win the race. Which way are you going?
Yeah, the Golden Rose always seems to be every year throw up a really good field, and the form coming out of the race is always really good. So, listen, I've picked one out, and I've loved this horse for a long time, Skyhook. In the Run to the Roses, he was outstanding coming home. It looks like he's got 1,400 metres written all over him. I thought Tempted, who won the Run to the Roses, to run second, and there's an interesting one, Wotan. Blinkers the first time. This might be the horse, this might be the little edge this colt needs, but to be honest, he's been very disappointed. I think he'd have to really jump out of his skin to turn the tables on Skyhawk and Tempted, but I have him running third.
Really even race. We were talking just before we recorded today, and we were talking in riddles. We didn't say which horse we were going to go for in the Golden Rose, but we thought we came up with the same conclusion, but we actually haven't, Bossy, because I've gone Autumn Boy in this one. I think he's verging on a special.
Yeah,
really like
special.
The horse. It's going to be right.
I like that. Well, we might have tipped the first four to everyone.
Now we're getting a bit ridiculous, I think. Well, I know it's Bossy's. I know it's Bossy's best, and it's not Peacock's picks. But yeah, Autumn Boy for me, but Skyhook for you. And that's what I mean, though. You look at this race 3 or 4 times, and you come up with 3 or 4 different winners. It's a great race.
Oh, mate, that's the thing. That's but yeah, visually, I thought Skyhook was outstanding first up in the Run to the Roses. So, He just looks like a colt that's furnished. He's got better with a bit of age. I think the distance is right up his alley. But yeah, like I said, you could have 5 picks and not get the winner.
Oh, mate, if you like your footy and you like your racing, this is the weekend, isn't it? So you've got AFL Grand Final, NRL Prelim Finals, and you've got all this Group 1 racing across Friday and Saturday. It's I know where I'll be, and it'll involve the word couch and not moving.
Yeah, the last week in September is unbelievable. It sets a tone for the big races through October and early November. It's sort of, you can nearly pick the ones out. And obviously we've got the 2 codes going to the grand finals. It's just the best time of the year.
Bossy, have a great weekend. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Adam. Have a good one and back plenty of winners, son.
We'll see you next week on Who's the Boss.